It is my great pleasure now to invite Lisa DeMarco up to the stage to convene our first panel and to bring the first group of panelists together. We're starting midstream, catching the momentum that's already been built and that Premier Wynne referred to. And Lisa will set the context and get us going. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you. If I might call the panel members up to come and take a comfy seat while we're introducing everybody. First, let me thank Ilsa, Annette, Premier Wynne, Premier Selinger, Minister Chiarelli, Minister McQueen, Minister Daly, Minister Younger, for your presence today. It really does indicate the importance of the issue to us as Canadians, to us as members of provinces of Canada, and to us as hopeful energy innovators across the country. I'm wondering if today we can borrow off of a recent example of some national collaboration where we had a few key members from across the country get together to own the podium. If we can build off the example of both our men and our women's hockey team to really translate what we've done, bringing together team players from across the country into an outstanding series of national teams to own that podium globally. So with that, I would love to introduce our panel members here with a question, and I'll take my seat. We've got Dr. Tom Brand, who is an author and senior advisor at Mars Cleantech Group and a managing partner of the Mars Cleantech Fund. We have Ms. Patrice Merrin, who is a member of the Board of Directors of Climate Change and Emissions Management Canada. We have Dr. Ali Haj-Fraj, who's the General Manager of Power Technologies International of Siemens Global. And we have Monsieur Gaëtan Thomas, who is the President and CEO of New Brunswick Power. Please join me in welcoming them all. So, as I take my comfy chair and hopefully transition, look at that brilliant communications, innovation, and technology. If I can lead with Tom and start with a question for you, Tom. And specifically, you work very directly with energy innovators and startups across the country and specifically here at Mars. Can you give us a bird's eye view of the Canadian energy innovation sector and what makes it unique? How are we going to own that podium?
Well, I think one of the first things that we've done well in this country is acknowledge the difference between traditional tech like telecoms and IT and clean tech. And there is significant differences. Lessons we've learned from the telco sector don't necessarily extend that well into clean tech. Evidence of that would be, I mean, there's some big and bright, some of the brightest people in the world down in Silicon Valley who run some of the biggest VC firms down there have been burned badly playing in clean tech because I think consensus is because they've treated it a little bit like it was going to be another traditional piece of technology. Look, clean tech is big wires, not little wires. It's pots of bubbling fluid and compressors. It's not, instead of fiber optic cables and blade servers. It's infrastructure. And infrastructure plays differently. It has different characteristics. And often one's customers are going to be utilities. And utilities are often regulated, very cost conscious, and for good reason, often risk averse, right? The job is keep the lights on. So that environment, I think, it can be very challenging. I think the benefit we have, though, of course, we can learn from the mistakes that I think Silicon Valley has made. And we have begun to build a really healthy ecosystem around those differences in Canada, which I think has got us a lead, and we can sustain that lead in clean tech, which will be a very big market. By that I mean, look, when you demonstrate the technology the first time in clean tech, it's often very capital intensive. And so it's very hard to raise capital before you've shown it works. You have to show it works, it takes a lot of money. So partners like SDTC at the federal level, Sustainable Development Technology Canada, IDF at the provincial level, Innovation Demonstration Fund, absolutely crucial non-dilutive capital to get those projects off the ground. The other piece is that much deeper partnerships are required in clean tech. You don't just sort of show up at Toronto Hydro's doorstep with something and demonstrate it. You partner deeply from the get-go. You have a systems approach, and you partner with big vendors like GE and Siemens and ABB. And so those partnerships are deeper. And there, for example, we have in Ontario the Smart Grid Fund. It's a $50 million fund. It supported 11 projects. And it really encourages utility benefit and partnerships with some of these innovative companies. And then 3, of course, is scale. That when you go to sell this technology globally, your customers often need debt. It's project finance. And that's a bankability issue. And that's something else that we're figuring out. EDC, Export Development Bank of Canada, is a strong partner in helping us get these technologies to market. So these are all pieces of an ecosystem that acknowledge the very big differences between clean tech, clean energy innovation, and traditional IT. And I think leveraging those advantages and continuing to build out those ecosystems in the way that we are will allow venture capitalists, entrepreneurs, to really play faster and better in this global market.
Can you give us a few examples, Tom, of Canadian innovators that are really playing in the global market?
So lest it be too abstract, I'll give you 4. And these come from a big feeder system we have in Ontario, the Ontario Networks of Excellence. It's a collaborative group of innovation centers. I think Tom Vare from Sault Ste. Marie is here, for example. So there's a big feeder system of clean tech companies, and out of that, the best and brightest sort of move forward. I'll give you 4 examples. There are others. Morgan Solar are coming into the market this year, much anticipated market entry. With the technology is an optic, and you basically take a lot of light, put it onto a little chip that's very efficient. So it's lots of plastic, little bit of silicon. The result of that is extremely low-cost solar power. It'll be 5 cents a kilowatt hour in sunny areas around the world. That's a highly disruptive price point for solar. The point they're at is they are now at the point where they're going to start scaling up, and they're going to need to generate that bankability profile where their customers can borrow money for large projects, 50 megawatts, 100 megawatts. So that's Morgan Solar. 2 storage companies. I know Annette Verschuren is working in storage. That's a crucial piece of the clean tech pie. The person who cracks that nut, to mix my metaphors, will be on to a really big thing. Temporal Power, I think Cam Carver is here. Temporal Power, the technology is a flywheel, very low friction flywheel. The result of that is you can bring stability into unstable line feeders. So if you have a lot of wind on a feeder, it's unstable over a period of a minute to 15 minutes or so. So you can feed power in and take power out of that flywheel very quickly to stabilize that feeder. And they're in the process now of demonstrating that technology, again, with the help of some of these funds, with Hydro One and so on. HydroStore, Kurt Van Wallingham is here. HydroStore is a very low-cost grid-scale energy storage. The technology is you store compressed air in these sort of accumulators at the bottom of a lake or an ocean, and you take the energy back by releasing that air. So there's some nuance to that, but that's roughly it. They're building a system in Toronto for Toronto Hydro to demonstrate the economic viability of energy storage as an alternative to natural gas peaking plants or increased transmission capacity. So a very big market around the world in congested urban areas. And they're building a commercial plant down in Aruba where they will store wind power all night long and release it all day long. The net result of HydroStore is if you put wind plus HydroStore in the Caribbean markets, you can beat diesel today, no subsidies. Right? This is a fundamental game changer in global energy. So you now have offshore wind developers partnering with HydroStore. So the state they're at now is demonstrating that technology, taking the risk out. So we play a role in that. IDF, SDTC plays a role in that. And then they're going to develop a big pipeline of projects they'll need to develop, and they'll move straight into that project finance piece. But again, they wouldn't be here if it wasn't for IDF and SDTC, for example. The last piece would be woodland biofuels. So they can make ethanol from cellulose. So essentially, you rip wood chips apart, stitch it back together, you have ethanol through a 3-step catalytic process for the chemists in the room. Net result, they have a pilot plant in Sarnia, strong support from SDTC, strong support from IDF. They've taken the risk out, they've shown it works, and now they're raising money for their first commercial plant. Net result, they will make ethanol, which replaces gasoline, cheaper than the gasoline. No subsidies. So when you take the training wheels off, the supportive infrastructure that we require for our innovators in clean tech. When you take that structure away and you take the training wheels off, these bikes will fly, right? And they do not need subsidies. They will compete head-to-head with fossil fuels in a pretty big global market. So that recognizing the necessity of that infrastructure is absolutely crucial, and we've done it right so far. And there's more that we can do. And I think that's what we're here talking about today, is how to extend that lead that we've already got.
Great. Thanks so much. I'm just going to throw in one quick question. Do we have the confidence that we have in our hockey guys, in our innovators? Do we need that?
I certainly do. I'm highly bullish on Canadian clean tech. And I think there's a lot of people in this room who are highly bullish on Canadian clean tech. I think the next step, though, is to begin to demonstrate some of that head-to-head competition with fossil fuels in global markets. You know, I think when Hydrostor has partnered with an offshore wind company and they've won a commercial PPA that has beaten out a diesel provider, and the next step is beat out a coal provider, that's when I think the oil and gas sector, who understand that we have to move to a low-carbon economy. Everyone knows this now. The question is how? Can it scale? Can it keep prices down? And I think as these innovators begin to demonstrate that possibility, you'll see the big players come to help us little clean tech guys out, right? The oil and gas sector will come in and say, great, now I can play because now you can scale the way I need you to scale.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Why don't we move from that, in your question of the how, to Patrice, if we can. And I'm going to ask, if I can, Patrice, for you to take the podium and really talk about, you know, you're a Canadian business leader, you've been the CEO of a very large company, you're a board member of Climate Change and Emissions Management Canada. Can you give us some insight into what the Alberta CCEMC, Climate Change and Emissions Management Canada, is doing and how that might play out in a national context?
Thank you, Lisa. I asked to come to the podium because I feel that if I'm laid back in a comfy chair, I can't lean in. So that's the, we all get that, right? We get that. I haven't had quite enough coffee to sit in a comfy chair. But I would like to key off the Premier's comments, and it is so wonderful to have this stature of an audience for this event today, in that the CCEMC is a real example of what could be shared and modeled and repeated across the country. So for those of you who do not know, the CCEMC, the Climate Change and Emissions Management Corporation, is an Alberta-based nonprofit corporation. I am a volunteer, a board member of the CCEMC, appointed when it was founded in 2009, and I represent the public at large. Of our board, we have people who represent mineral processing, fertilizer, conventional oil and gas, the oil sands, agriculture, and so on. And it is a very interesting and important mix of people who represent very large industry and very large sectors of the economy, which are well established. I also jokingly say that I'm like an Alberta ambassador in Ontario because the Alberta Energy and the work of the CCEMC really does need telling and sharing. So I'm particularly pleased to do this today. Every year, the CCEMC provides millions of dollars of funding to support the technologies that will help us reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Given the connection between economic growth and GHG emissions, we know that we have to provide a novel, creative solution to reduce greenhouse gases while spurring investment in clean technology. And the CCEMC has a model that is working. It could be adapted and applied to other provinces. You know, our sense is, and in this room, and the Premier in her opening remarks mentioned this, we need policies and practices across Canada which provide a flexible approach, which reflect our unique provinces, our unique economies, geology, and natural endowment. The CCEMC operates arm's length from government. Was formed for our priorities are aligned out of the government's strategy for climate and energy, funded and aligned with the province's strategy. We are the first jurisdiction, Alberta is, in North America that regulated GHGs from industry and set a price on carbon, and today Alberta remains still only one of 2 functioning regulated carbon markets in North America. Under the specified gas emitters regulation, our large emitters are required to reduce their emissions, and they can do that through continuous improvement, which is certainly part of industry, purchase offsets, or pay $15 a ton, in essence a levy, into a fund that supports development and application of transformative technologies. The funds paid by large emitters go straight into a CCEMC fund, which is around $400 million at this point. Our then job as a board is to look at projects that merit, through lots of vetting, which Eddie and Eddie Isaacs and his group do, that will be prospective for the future. So at this point, as I say, we have just under $400 million in funding. We began funding projects in 2010, and today we have 50 projects underway. The projects funded are today about just over $200 million that have a combined total value of about $1.5 billion. So the CCEMC's investment is leveraged about 6 to 1. So our partners are putting that in as well as the CCEMC's base funding. So our funding is paid out to projects as they reach specified milestones. We're not providing loans. We don't look for a financial return. The return comes in the form of reduced GHGs. We have a balanced portfolio that reflects Alberta's climate change strategy. So in terms of where the money is invested today, $98 million has been invested in renewable energy, about $55 million in projects related to greening fossil fuels, about $40 million in energy efficiency, and about $22 million in carbon capture and storage. We also have contributed about $7 million to support 3 adaptation projects, and additional $8.4 million to help manage greenhouse gas emissions from biological sources, including cattle. It's a little bit of fun to think about that. Our support touches all sectors of the economy and all stages of innovation, from research to deployment. You know, Tom gave lots of examples. I can give you, we have one example of a project funded, led by a consortium that is an international communications and IT company working with the oil sands producers to replace steam for in situ bitumen extraction with electromagnetic heating in combination with solvent dilution. That could change the way the oil sands industry operates. Another project led by researchers at University of Calgary is developing a novel type of activated absorbing biocarbon from aspen wood residue. If they're successful, what it really means is that a waste product from Alberta's forestry industry could find a useful new application, preventing the formation and release of methane from tailings pond water, which is very important. So the CCEMC is a policy taker, not a policy maker. We remain current. We're always course correcting because the Alberta climate change strategy and related regulations are reviewed and updated on a regular basis, currently every 5 years. So the review process means that the CCEMC model has built-in mechanisms for course recalculations and adjustments, and those will come from successes in the innovation and technology we fund as well. We do take a very long-term perspective. We know transformative technologies are required to meet GHG reduction targets, and we know transformative technologies take many years to develop. And a lot of the large emitters in Alberta have been there for decades. These are old, established, high-employing, core parts of the Alberta and Canadian economies. We've made very good progress in our first 4 years, and we have a lot of exciting work ahead of us. So what we feel is that the CCEMC is a unique model that is helping Alberta reduce its GHGs, and at the same time, in a virtuous circle, it spurs the development of innovative technology. We feel it's performing well. We're always looking to tweak it and do better, but it certainly has the potential to be adapted for other provinces as well. And I admire very much the Premier's suggestion that these are what's good for all of Canada. Canada owns the podium, and it does so when industry makes a contribution, and that virtuous circle is supported by all of us.
Thank you so much, Patrice. I wonder.
Sit down. Sit down.
So I'm sure we'll get into questions specifically on how Alberta can leverage, how we can leverage the Alberta success once the audience participate. But we'll push on now and come back to that if we're okay. Next we have Dr. Ali Haj-Fraj, who is the General Manager of Power Technologies from Siemens Global. And I'd like to ask you, Ali, if I might, from your global perspective, Canadians have this, humility, this sort of, we don't necessarily sound our own trumpet very often. From your global perspective at Siemens, what are the major energy challenges facing utilities, and what solutions are needed to address them?
Thank you, Lisa, for this question. Before answering this question, I would like to collide with Patrice and join the podium, if you don't mind.
Please, please.
I liked what you said.
She started a trend, it's great.
So, good morning, everybody. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un grand honneur pour moi d'être parmi vous aujourd'hui. Coming back to your question, Lisa, it's a very good question because before we should talk about innovation and solution, we should better understand the challenges we want to solve. And from my point of view, there are 4 global major important energy challenges which we have to master. So the first one is the increasing distributed generation. The second one is today the limited grid capabilities we have. And the aging infrastructure is a third one. Fourth is the CO2 emission. And the last one is the non-technical losses. But I want to emphasize here that the importance and the priority of these different challenges vary from region to another, from country to another. And even talking about Canada, the challenges will vary from province into another. And that's something we have, while working out the solutions, we have to take into consideration. And what we need here is we need solutions to master these challenges. Especially we need solutions which can help utilities to balance generation and demand. We need to optimize the load management and especially avoid load peaks, which are, as you know, very, very expensive. We need to increase the reliability of the grid and prevent outages, blackouts, and so on. And I think talking about Canada, talking about the severe weather you have here, I don't have to explain more about how important is a reliable grid for you. And fourth aspect or solution we have to solve is to improve the costs and emission efficiency. And this is a very important thing. It's important here to also emphasize that what we need is not only technical solutions. What we need also, because we are dealing with a paradigm shift in the energy field, especially in the power grid, we have also to find the right and adopt the right business models and business processes to get the business transformation which will support this change. And I would also, to support what Premier Wynne said, we need to support all that. It's not only a technical issue, it's not only a business or private sector issue. We need to support that with the political will. We need to support that with regulatory frameworks. We need to support that also with the acceptance and the awareness in the society. So all these factors are very important to master these challenges and give the answer and the solutions for the problem. Now Siemens, what is Siemens doing to enable utilities to master these challenges? I mean, as you know, Siemens has a strong portfolio for energy, providing generation, primary equipment for generation, transmission, and distribution. And what we are doing is we are supplementing this with what we call the Smart Grid Suite. So this is a comprehensive portfolio to bring more intelligence to the grid. And it consists of intelligent field devices, it consists of automation and communication technologies, and it consists of an IT layer of solutions, starting from a grid control solutions until many or different IT grid applications like demand response management, like metering data management, like virtual power plants, or solutions for e-vehicle management. And we are supplementing all of that or rounding out that with an offering for business consulting, business transformation consulting, and different grid services to enable the customers to adapt and to introduce these technologies. And we have been offering this for utilities around the world to help them keep energy, provide a constant energy. But what I want to highlight today or to share with you as a best practice is a cooperation with an innovative utility in Canada, specifically in New Brunswick. So 1.5 years ago, we have signed a multi-year cooperation with NB Power, helping them to transform their business into the future of electricity. And this cooperation is based on 2 pillars. The first one is developing and implementing a business transformation roadmap based on our Smart Grid Compass approach. And the second one is implementing an intelligent load solution to avoid peaks. And let me please explain in short sentences what Smart Grid Compass is about. So this is an approach, this is a framework which helps customers to transform their businesses into the future. It consists of 4 powerful steps: the orientation phase, the destination phase, the routing phase, and the navigation phase. So you start in the beginning by understanding where you are. Then in the second phase, the destination, you define the vision and the place where you want to be in the future. In the routing phase, you plan your route, how you want to get from where you are today to where you want to be in the future. And in the navigation phase is the implementation, is the rollout, is rolling out all the initiatives and implementing the technologies and the projects you need to get there where you want and stay on the path you are going. So Siemens is accompanying NB Power on this process as a co-pilot. So the owner is NB Power for that, but we are the co-pilot with our partner, and Gaëtan is here today, so I think he will share some thoughts about that. And we try to, together as a partner, steer and stay on the course and steer the way in that direction. So the intelligent load management solution, which is the second pillar, it's based on 2 components from our portfolio, which are the demand response system to avoid peak loads and the decentralized energy management solution to control the energy or the generation mix and load shedding. And with this solution, NB Power will be able to create value for their customers, to give them more choice and more control about their energy consumption. And with that, the ultimate goal is to keep rates low and constant and stable in the future. So you see that NB Power has a strong vision. They have an innovative mindset in approaching that, but they are not doing that because it's nice to do innovation only. They are doing that because they are a very diligent investor looking in the future and looking for an ROI out of that. So they are expecting a clear ROI out of their investment. And the ultimate goal is to have, and this is what Gaëtan is expecting from this project, to get for every $1 invested in this approach, $2 in return. And this is not a wish, so this is an executable plan. Now let me please close now with some remarks of the benefit of such a cooperation. So the benefit is not limited to NB Power and Siemens. In the province, the whole province, NP Power is benefiting from this cooperation. And we see how innovation is really impacting the province and the society and the economy. So Siemens has committed to invest up to $2.5 million in research, academic research and projects in university of the province. We have moved our global R&D for demand response solutions from Princeton to New Brunswick, and we have established a lot of cooperations with local businesses and with local communities there. So a whole ecosystem around innovation is evolving there, creating jobs and contributing to the economy of New Brunswick. So, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Haj-Fraj. And again, like Patrice, I'm sure you'll have many questions when we really do want to engage all of you brilliant minds in the room in really harnessing this extraordinarily talented panel. So it's coming up. Much like hockey, at the end of the day, it comes down to the fans. Energy innovation, at the end of the day, comes down to the customer. So with that, I wonder if we can ask Monsieur Thomas, Gaëtan, if you can, chat about specifically, from your perspective as the president and CEO of a major Canadian utility, New Brunswick Power, I'm wondering if you can give us your views on the importance of energy innovation in the context of the customer and customer needs across the country and globally.
Well, first, when you look at customers, what do they expect from a utility? They expect a utility with a vision. And for us, it is simple. 2 words: sustainable electricity. Easier said than done. And so we couple some words on our missions, and we said, well, what are we here for? And our mission is to proudly serve our customers. Actually quite non-standard for a typical utility. And with this vision, we said, okay, what strategies we need to achieve that and this mission? And we chose 3 strategies. One is being a top quartile performer, and that's the name of the game, that's the entry game. And then reducing our debt, because we have a heavy debt load. And the third one is help customers save money with this program of reduce and shift demand. And the reason for that is that we are facing the exact 4 or 5 challenges that were expressed by my friend, mon ami, Dr. Ali. They are here in New Brunswick, they are here in Canada, they are here all over the world. And the utilities have, in the past, tend to play a game wait and see. Well, somebody's got to start, and we decided to start in New Brunswick. We have a geographic advantage. We're connected to New England, Quebec, PEI, Nova Scotia, and soon to Newfoundland as well. And we're kind of the gateway to the electricity market in New England. We also could become the gateway to oil and gas to the rest of the world with the West-East pipeline. So we have tremendous opportunities here, and as an innovative utility, we decided, with good policy from our shareholder to get all back together to bring the synergies to better serve our customers. The diversity of supply we enjoy, nuclear, oil, biogas, biomass, you name it, wind, we have it. And, a lot of utilities call about the technologies that Tom was talking about as disruptive technologies. Well, for me, they are actually welcome technologies. They actually, give us an opportunity as a utility to actually better serve our customers. And if we are ready, and this is where we got together with our friends at Siemens, is that, those 2 peaks a day that we have every day, those 2 camel humps, the inefficiencies, and most utilities are running at 45 to 50% efficiencies. We can't continue to live that way and hope that nobody will come and beat us to the finish line. So to me, the only way to have that vision of sustainable electricity is we have to be ready when storage will be there. And storage will be a game changer. We got away with that in the past by saying we can't store the product, we're different. Well, with storage, we're no longer different. We have the same competitive advantage. We were there first. We own all the customers in New Brunswick right now, so it's our job to demonstrate to them that we are the best game in town. And the opportunity for us is it's $1.3 billion net present value. So when you compare the new projects, and it doesn't matter if it's a refurbishment of a nuclear reactor or a large hydro plant, some of these projects are costing 12 to 15 cents per kilowatt hour. In our business, it would double the cost of electricity to our customers. And unless we're innovative, unless we're forward thinkers, that is inevitable. Well, we are going to avoid that in New Brunswick by taking advantage of that $1.3 billion net present value, invest it in innovative technologies that will actually amalgamate or aggregate all the various options as storage come. We welcome storage. We are using it today in New Brunswick. We have pilot on electric thermal storage. We're advocating electric vehicles. I own one. I'm very happy. Quarter of the cost to run that vehicle compared to gasoline because of our low stable rates in New Brunswick. The advantage of storage is going to change this game, and we want to be ready. Our customers have told us, coming back to the question, that they want choice, they want options, they want convenience, they want control. And again, smart grid is the avenue to allow that to occur. And obviously, we're too small to do it by ourselves. We're really, really happy that Siemens joined us in New Brunswick to become that leading living lab to make this happen. And Siemens know I'm a demanding customer because I represent all the customers in the province of New Brunswick, and we want that $2 for every dollar, and we want to avoid spending for our customers, that 12 to 15 cents a kilowatt hour, while these kinds of investment in technologies and demand-side management will be in the vicinity of 4.5 cents per kilowatt hour. So we believe that's our edge. We believe the fact that we are all integrated as one utility. We're nimble. We are gaining advantages because of our natural hedging of our supply. And we're shooting to reduce 650 megawatts of peak load over the next 25 years. We'll sell it to our neighbors who basically will benefit from that extra energy at much cheaper cost than building new plants. So we think that all Canadians will benefit from this because you need somebody to start, and our customers will engage into it. And I will finish from a point of view with the customer. We just went through a recent storm. Without investing one more dollar, once we got this all aggregated together with smart people like Siemens joining our team, we will actually have the best response for storms. We will know exactly who's out, who's in. We'll be able to take advantage, for instance, of, without having to roll a truck out there. If we have dual feeds, which we have in most of our large centers, we'll be able to return power remotely without having to have the customer call us or having a line worker going out there and turn the switch. So the sky is not, the universe is the limit, and our customers, I'm confident, will embrace our vision because we're doing something about it, and we'll do it in time to basically accommodate all these other technologies that will bring benefits to our customers. So this is our vision, and the job is to really engage our customers because technology is there. The issue now is to create that language, that relationship with our customers so they buy into this product and they buy in that utilities can be innovative, can be different, can be transformational in nature. So that's my message today is our customers own us. They want the very best product, the very best price. We're no different than any other providers in the world.
Well, thank you so much, and I am so proud to be sitting with the dream team here. And we have, they've been incredibly disciplined. We are immediately on time. So I'd love to open the floor out to you for any specific questions. I'm not sure if we have a microphone. We do have a microphone going around for anybody who'd like to ask a question. And if I might start while you just flag down the microphone, person with the microphone, Patrice. How do we leverage everything that's going on with CCEMC to really give that great push, particularly in an oil and gas dominated province, across the country in the national context?
Well, we actually have a push in the global context in that in addition to our regular rounds and requests for proposals, we have launched a global grand challenge of $35 million with a prize. I'm just kind of using your question to talk about this grand challenge. But it's important that people know that this is going on in Canada. So we felt that in addition to our normal coursework, that we should attempt to, in terms of owning the podium, do a pole vault in terms of what CCEMC could offer people who are in the innovation space. So we have launched a $35 million Grand Challenge prize, and we put it out to innovators and inventors and so on around the world because we think that the answers can come globally. And the focus of this challenge was to use carbon as an asset. How could we take carbon and use it as an asset? And that, again, it has to have application for Alberta, but the answers and the projects could come from anywhere. We had a globally recognized judging panel for these inbound project proposals. Elise Allen's one of our judging panel, and Eddie and others are part of the screening group. In any case, we're just about to launch the announcement of who has come in on this in April at our 2014 conference in Edmonton, and we had almost 350 proposals come in from around the world for ideas of how to use carbon as an asset, and from all sorts of sectors and so on. So that's an example of something that, again, we hope through this virtuous circle of contribution into that and people being able to prove themselves up, that the winner eventually will get a $10 million prize and be able to establish a business in Alberta. And that, again, that's the sort of thing that can, you know, hopefully will have benefit around the world, but certainly for Alberta and for Canada.
Certainly near and dear to my heart, seeing carbon as not just a liability,
right,
but as an opportunity. So certainly that's something we should definitely pole vault from. Thank you so much. We have a question over here.
So Susan MacArthur from Green Soil Investments. Thank you very much. Very interesting panel this morning. I'm picking up on Premier Wynn's comments earlier about needing a Canadian energy strategy. Mr. Thomas, you had a very innovative deal in your province to do a deal with Quebec to wield power through New Brunswick down to New England. That deal got pulled off the table because of the elephant in the room, which tends to be politics. So when we have jurisdictional issues where it's very difficult to wield power between, for example, Ontario and Quebec, Quebec and New Brunswick, how do you deal with that elephant in the room and overcome those jurisdictional issues?
Well, I would say that, by the way, we've been trading with Quebec for the last 20 years, and our relationship is even better than before that started. So I think the first thing, how you deal with that is you leave the utilities to do the deals, and deals are ongoing, and you leave the politicians out of making the deals. But the politicians have a role to play, and in New Brunswick they did it. They gave us a mandate, and they gave us an energy policy. And without the energy policy, for us to achieve the vision would not. So yes, I wish that at some time there's a Canadian energy policy because it would solve some of those jurisdictional issues. But I think, you know, for the way I look at it, shareholders set the policy, you know, the board set the strategies, and then the CEO drives the train. And if people can stick to their role, I think that you advance the process. And when Siemens saw that we got our act together in terms of you know, the sound energy blueprint and the vision of our company, they said that's the place to do this. So I think it can happen all across the country with a very similar approach that we did in New Brunswick.
And let's hope that this is one of the key steps, a forum of this nature. Ilsa, Annette, all the premiers and certainly energy ministers are really doing just that by facilitating that type of dialogue today. There's a question here.
Thanks. My name's Merrin Smith. I'm with Clean Energy Canada with Tides Canada. And I really appreciate the panel. It's been great. And I appreciate Premier Wynn's opening to make the Canadian energy strategy go to the next phase, which is, you know, beyond compiling what we're doing, what's our targets, where are we going, and what are the actionable items? So really my question to you is, you've got a lot of great ideas and innovations, a lot of low carbon approaches towards energy. What do you need in a Canadian energy strategy? What do you need to be there to help you amplify and move forward and really accelerate this transition to the lower carbon approach?
I'll happily jump in and speak for the entrepreneurs in the room. We're at Mars, after all. It's often been thought of, and I've often even discussed Cleantech as a kind of a separate sector from the traditional energy sector. And I think we're now approaching a tipping point where that's just not the case, right? You know, like it or not, there's so much solar going up on US rooftops now that they have to deal with a lack of demand at the high points of the day. So that encroachment has occurred, and I think in Canada the reason we're here is to begin discussing how we can be proactive about how we merge these sectors together. You know, just like IT is no longer a sector, IT underpins every strategy of every sector in the country. If you're pulp and paper or automotive, you've got an IT strategy. In the same way, every sector in this country, pulp and paper, automotive, utilities, oil and gas, will have a strategy around low carbon energy, whether it's demand reduction, whether it's distributed energy production, or whatever. There's going to be participation in, you know, the low carbon economy, one way or another. So beginning to talk about different industries collaborating and seeing Cleantech, not as a separate sector, the innovator people coming with, you know, distributed energy that's a threat to my stability or so on. This is a collaborative approach, right? I mean, the oil and gas sector and the mining sector in this country, these are deep pockets. These are global companies with global market access, the best engineers in the world. I mean, that's the kind of might that we need on this hockey team. And this is Ginla and Crosby, right? Ginla is the existing big sectors, and Crosby is the Cleantech guy. So once we start passing that puck, I think we're really going to see some movement. And again, Cleantech is not a sector. It is a new way of doing business in a low-carbon world. And I think we are beginning to understand that, and that's why we're having this conversation. And I think that's what I'd like to see.
Don't forget Corey Price. There we go.
Yeah, I'm speaking like one Olympics ago.
It's all good. It's all good.
I had some thoughts to
Holly,
that.
please, yes.
Yeah.
From an outside perspective,
Right.
Particularly.
Yeah. I think that one of the biggest hurdles here that what we are talking about will cost money. We'll have to invest in that. And this requires, like Gaëtan said, requires a vision. So someone who has a vision to change things, to change the world to the better. The second thing is you can't solve it in silos. You have to bring a lot of stakeholders together and show their win, their benefit out of that. And we need more facilitators in that. I really appreciate this summit. It's in that kind, bringing people together from different perspectives and try to get a kind of common sense, a kind of common understanding of that, and bringing ideas together and move forward. So again, political will, a good framework. We need clear business cases so that everyone knows what I have to invest and what can I get. At the end of the day, it's a big obstacle. We have to face it, and and that's why as I mentioned, the political part can bring and moderate and facilitate. And just to refer to New Brunswick, I must admit that, and Gaëtan, you will support that. I think the support we have got from the government in in making things happen and making processes easier, creating a framework to this cooperation, it was key. And this is something you have to keep in mind here while you are talking about that.
These are both great, really fabulous points. It's no longer an us and them proposition. It's one big us who really have to start working together quite efficiently in very different ways. And to that end, I have to note that about 20 years ago when I started in the industry, I used to be the woman in the room. And Annette, Ilsa, Premier Wynne, Patrice, thank you. Thank you. So with that.
Thank you very much for your presentation. My name is Marie-Hélène Labrie. I'm from Enerchem, a Canadian cleantech company that produces biofuels and biochemicals from municipal solid waste and other residues. We're supported by SDTC. We have a wonderful project in Alberta in partnership with the City of Edmonton and Alberta Innovates Energy and Environment Solution. We're also supported by CCEMC for an R&D project in Edmonton. My question is for Mr. Rand. You described the uniqueness of the cleantech sector very accurately. You also said that Canada needs to play better and faster. Now that we have a better understanding of this sector and its uniqueness, given the diversity of this sector as well, which encompasses technologies that are in water, energy, biomass, waste management, etc., what do you think are the next steps to play faster in the clean tech sector in Canada?
That's a really good question. I'll take one easy out and say we need to double down on what we've done right so far. I think we need to renew the mandate of SDTC. I think we should renew the mandate of IDF. And I think those are successful programs. They've generated an enormous amount of private capital leverage in the market. They've generated an enormous amount of interest in private sector involvement. So I think let's double down on what we do right, for one thing. I think EDC is a key piece as companies move into commercialization, to really step up with performance warrants on how technology operates in the field, to allow other banks to get involved, for example. I think that's a very key piece. And I think what I'd like to see is more aggressive involvement by the private sector. Again, I'll say this again. The oil and gas sector in this country have enormous pockets compared to us little clean tech guys. And if the oil and gas sector dabbled in clean tech, it would make a huge difference to us. So I think it's beginning to happen. I mean, this isn't a complaint. This is a prediction. I think this is what's going to happen. But that's what I think will happen next, is the private capital will begin to come to play. And how we incent that, I'm not really sure. I mean, that we do that every day by simply trying to prove that we have great technologies, that they work. Enerchem is an example, right? That we can compete, and we are a player. And rather than being competition, we're potential acquisition targets, for example. We're collaborators. And I think having that private capital come to play more aggressively is the next big step.
Peter Love, former Chief Energy Conservation Officer for the Province of Ontario, and just recently rejoined the company I founded in Summerhill, and an adjunct professor at York. All of you have talked a little bit about economics, but I have a question for each of the panelists, and actually I'd be interested in, Lisa, if you'd respond as well. The Canadian Council of Chiefs of Executives, and there's a number of them here, Elise and others, has called on the Canadian government to put a price on carbon as a way to, and Tom, coming back to your point, as a way to stimulate, well, for various reasons. I'd be interested in the panel's view on the need and whether you would recommend that there be a price on carbon as part of our Canadian energy strategy that's in the process of being developed. Thank you.
Why don't we go my right to left? Patrice, do you want to start with that?
Well, Alberta has one. So there you are. I mean.
And this is something that is so not recognized globally and across the country that not only does Alberta have one, but it's had one far before most other jurisdictions had one. So I think it's a very important point.
For New Brunswick, we have a clear policy, 40% renewable, 75% non-emitting by 2025. There's many ways to do that. In my view, as long as the policies are clear, you don't need a carbon price to achieve what you want to do. But you have to have some consistent rules and consistent policies to achieve what you want to do. So.
I think the single most effective tool that we have at our disposal is a price on carbon. The only way that you can harness the market's creative potential and unleash its creative potential, yet harness its capacity to burn every piece of fossil fuel in the ground, is to put a price on carbon. It enables every transaction in a market economy to change from retail transactions to project finance. So I think without a price on, there are other good tools. Regulatory tools are some, RFPs are another. But if you're not going to put a price on carbon, you're not really unleashing, you know, what everyone in this room, I think, acknowledges, which is the power and strength and creativity of the market. And if you want to do it in a way that's politically palatable, every penny you collect in a carbon tax, you distribute to as a reduced payroll tax, for example. So you tax the bad and untax the good. And I think that's a very effective solution. So whether we can pull it off nationally, I don't know. But I also think if we went it alone nationally, there's a lot of international money, the pension fund money, patient money, that is looking for low carbon risk jurisdictions. And by moving first, I think we can have an advantage by attracting some of that capital for the infrastructure, for that we need to rebuild and so on. So I think an argument can be made going first is good. And I personally just think it's the most effective tool you have in a market economy. So going without it is like going into the ring with one hand tied behind your back or leaving Crosby on the bench.
Wouldn't want to do that.
Actually, nothing to add to what was said.
I have a couple of thoughts. Certainly want to highlight that a number of our jurisdictions do have carbon pricing regulated in place. Specifically, Quebec, of course, has a cap and trade regulation. Alberta has YESCR regulations. BC has related regulations. And Saskatchewan has draft legislation. Ontario has worked on a couple of fronts with a strategy pushing forward. But the key point is we do a fair amount of project finance. Not once have I been engaged in an activity where we're either purchasing in an M&A context or financing in a broader project finance context a significant asset where we're not asked to do a shadow carbon price and effectively value the asset in relation to the carbon-based liabilities. The second point I'd love to make is if we don't do it, other jurisdictions are going to do it for us in the form of border tax adjustments. And this isn't hypothetical. This is happening now. So if you look at the proposal of the New York Senate to study imposing import tariffs on Canadian-based exported electricity going into New York and mandate allowance purchases on far cleaner and greener electricity, we have to scratch our head on that and think, how do we address that in a market-based mechanism or market-based paradigm that makes sense where we can actually optimize the value of the very significant investments we've made and becoming virtually one of the lowest carbon energy jurisdictions worldwide. So not to get on the soapbox, there we go. Other questions? Go ahead, John.
Thank you. I'm John Gorman. I head up the Canadian Solar Industries Association, and my question is for you, Gaëtan. I want to commend the vision that you have and the work that MB Power is doing, and I would agree with you that among the traditional utilities, it's a very progressive, progressive course that you've set. I can see how the innovations that you are implementing will benefit all customers, but it seems to me at the same time that the innovation that you're discussing is more utility scale, whether it's with the transmission grid or utility scale storage. So when you talk about the customers being first, and when you talk about choice and options, convenience, control, are you also looking at the residential customer and what they can do in that sense, or the small business, or is it all sort of utility level?
Actually, it's more at the commercial and residential level. We have today 500 electric thermal storage in residence. We have promoted with the municipalities, electric chargers, so that we've done studies on their fleet so that they can actually, and many have engaged with us to convert some of their fleet. There is already a business case for municipal utilities in New Brunswick to convert part of their fleet to electric vehicle, which, by the way, is a benefit. We want to actually take advantage of the local storage. because the larger capacity storage will take more time, probably 2017, 2018. There is already tools and devices that can do that today. So our goal is actually to start with the residents and the business. We've signed MOUs with companies, innovative companies like Shift Energy, who is doing some business energy management type systems. We're interfacing with them within our own buildings. We're talking to government offices, hospitals, schools. There is lots of ways that they can save money and obviously avoid peaks, which, by the way, for us is in the vicinity of a nuclear plant size. That's what we're talking about, that we can make available for the market. And there will be, the minute the economy grows, the minute there's connections, better connections to New England, that excess capacity will be available. So yeah, I may have talked about the grid, but we're talking 345,000 customers having the ability to manage their load and control it. So electronic thermostats, NB Power is right now, in the last few weeks, Save Twice. We're converting our customers, engaging them to actually get the electronics so that we can interface to them once we're ready with the intelligent load management. We have a prototype project, PowerShift Atlantic. We have actually invested $8 million, found partners for $8 million, and the federal government matched us with $16 million. So we've invested $32 million to come up with the tools. So it's in action. It's not, the vision is being executed with residents, with commercial customers.
I think we have time for one more question, and then I'll invite you to all seek out this dream team and get their autographs later. But please, one last question.
Hi, my name's Timothy Egan. I'm president of the Canadian Gas Association. Often when we talk about energy innovation, we talk about upstream oil and gas or downstream electricity and clean tech. So if it's Iginla and upstream oil and gas, and Crosby is clean tech, and maybe Tavares is downstream electricity, then we think of ourselves as Jamie Benn or Martin St. Louis, and kind of late additions to the game, but frankly, we're pretty critical to success. So natural gas use is as significant as electricity use in the downstream, but it's often not part of the innovation conversation. So we've recently made an announcement with SDTC to change that with a new fund. But I'm interested in your perspectives on opportunities to cooperate between gas and electricity and other clean tech technologies.
Well, I'll suggest woodland biofuels, who can turn natural gas into ethanol. So you can take a low-value commodity, currently low-value commodity, and turn it into a high-value commodity. And we'll be talking to that fund about exactly that project.
And certainly, I think seeing the MMBTU as a common entity, regardless of the originating source. So, for example, if I can, highlight Hydrogenics here, which is a gas to electricity type project, or electricity to gas type storage project. I think there's been lots of really interesting investment from, as Tom says, those deep pockets. I know Enbridge and others in the room have made some real precedent-setting investments in a very innovative sector, and truly it comes from just driving energy productivity. It's going to practice. Got to work really hard and get the energy productivity out of the sector and be agnostic as to where the MMBTU comes from. So I take your point, Tim, very, very strongly. We do have one more question that we can open the floor up to, so I will throw it out there. Going. The red light is flashing. We're hearing the buzzer at the end of the game. Thank you so much, and I'm really excited based on what I'm hearing from you in the room and the dream team here that we can, in fact, own the Energy Innovation Podium. And with that, I'll turn it over to Annette.
Very impressive.